Hey, thanks so much for finding the video. Do us a favor. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe. Be sure to leave your comment. We love to interact. Enjoy the video. I want to start talking Saints-Bears this weekend. I just want to delve right into this matchup. Let's start with who we assume is going to be back and how that impacts the game. So, Kamara, Mike Thomas, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Marcus Williams. We're assuming all these guys are going to be back, right, Mike? So how does all of those guys returning with some time off, how does that impact this game?
Better than not having them.
No
All
doubt.
I can tell you, my feeling is, I think the most important guy in January is Michael Thomas. This team has proven that they can run the ball. They're averaging 140 yards a game rushing. You look at it just during the regular season. We always talk about balance and how important that is. They threw the football 522 times this year. They rushed it 494. I mean, that's about as close as you're going to get, 522 and 494. You're talking about almost 50-50. That's it. And so what you need, and Richie Pettibone, a former longtime defensive coordinator with the Redskins, played a ton of football in the NFL too. And Richie told me, he said, running game and stopping the run is always going to be 1-2. And he said, 1B is you got to have a great quarterback. And he said the other part about it is you got to find a guy when everything's on the line, he can move the chains. And he said, you just think about it. In Kansas City, when Mahomes got 3rd and 7, who does he look toward? Travis Kelce. You look at Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams. I mean, that's his guy. That's the guy I want. Okay, with the Saints, it's Michael Thomas. Even when he's covered, he's open. He can move the chains for you. So having Mike available, I think is huge for this football team if they want to play in February. And, I just think offensively, when you think about it, it's almost unbelievable to think that this football team is averaging 30 points a game and have only played 10 quarters with Breeze, Kamara, and Michael Thomas on the field.
That's an incredible number.
I mean, okay, you give credit where you want to do, and some people don't want to give any to Sean Payton. Come on, you got to give it up for him. How many coaches can manufacture that? He's playing with different players. It's not long-term, but it's short-term, and he's making it work. But this year's different because of how good you are on defense. Okay? You're 4th against the run, 5th against the pass. You got 45 quarterback sacks, 81 tackles for losses. You're +9 giveaway, takeaway. Matt, this team was always known for high risk, high reward with Drew. Yeah, and we throwing it all over the place. Yeah, we're going to turn the ball over a little bit, but you know what? We're going to score a lot. Of how important, and +9, I think, is tied for 3rd in the NFL of how good that is. So you got those features coming back. The other part is when you flip the coin, the Bears don't have their best player of 2020 on the field, and that's Roquan Smith. When you turn on that film of the Bears, I know Khalil Mack gets a lot of ink, and he's a very talented guy, but he hasn't played big time this year. Really hasn't. Keem Hicks has had his ups and downs and had some injuries. Man, Roquan Smith, he's a man out on that football field. I don't care if he's in run support, blitzing, in the coverage. Man, Roquan has played tremendous. He couldn't even go through the walkthroughs yesterday. And then, on the offensive side of the football, Darnell Mooney. And I tried to sell him, so to speak, to a friend of mine who was in the scouting department. I'm just telling you, I don't know if he could have played 12 years ago or 10 years ago. He's a rail-thin receiver. But in today's world, he can play. Reason why is you can't touch him after 5 yards. You can't hit him high. You can't hit him low. And if he catches the football, you better catch him fast because he's up the field, and in a flash. He is a really good route runner. He's become a much more secure pass catcher with the Bears. You won't have him either to deal with. So, man, that's good signs for the Saints that you got people coming back healthy. You hated to see it about Nick Easton. We talked about it last week on the show, and Matt, it's always concerning to me when I see a player get a couple concussions and now he's got a third. Man, you wonder about his career and how this team has lost the last couple years. They've lost because the Rams shifted people inside to go up against their guards. Last year, you saw Everson Griffin and Danielle Hunter shift from the edge over up against their guards if it was Larry Wolford or Pete or whoever. And now you lose Easton. And Easton, the one thing I give him a credit for, he might get a penalty for holding, but he ain't giving up no sack. I mean, he's willing to pull you down to keep number 9 healthy. Now, Ruiz is a different story. Man, if I'm playing up against the Saints offensive line, that's who I'm going after. I'm going to challenge him to see how good he is. And, I mean, Akeem Hicks is like, man, that guy, he can't block me every play. Now, Nick Easton probably couldn't block him every play, too, but Nick would know how to tie him up. So that's the negative of it, that here again, you're in a spot which has been a weak point for a couple years. At some point late in the year, at that guard position, and you saw they went after Wolford last year.
Oh yeah,
and then the year before, they went after Andrew Speed. So now you can bet every nickel you got that they're going to go after Ruiz. Their deal is, well, there's a reason that Nick Easton is starting and he's not. So I'm going after him. So it's a big challenge for Ruiz this week, going up against a Bears front who is not as good, certainly without Smith. But that's the negative part of it, that it's been an area that has been sort of a soft spot. I know they've tried to do what they can to fulfill that position. And eventually, you may even see James Hurst playing some guard. Because he's played there before. He's played inside. In fact, I know in interviews we've done, he's told us he's played more inside than he has at tackle. So it may be not only a position for now, but also for the future. And, man, you worry about Easton because, 3 concussions in 1 year, Matt, that's not good. Yeah. That's a bad sign.
Mike, we'll get back to the NFL wildcard weekend in the next segment. Let's talk about the LSU hires. Waiting on defense, but we know what it's going to be on offense. Jake Peetz and DJ Mangus. It seems, Mike, like this was a package deal. It was either both or neither. What's your thought on how LSU went about this process, landing these two guys?
Well, I knew it would always be a connect the dots somewhere with O. I mean, that's sort of been the MO with him and hires, one way or another. Other than Scott Linehan, other than that, everything else is sort of, he's had that connection. Mm-hmm. And so, that connection was Joe Brady. And, I know DJ from his time here. He worked with Joe quite a bit on the passing game. I know a lot of people thought Joe was working with the quarterback. No, Joe worked with the receivers. That was Brady's deal. He worked with the wideouts, and that's what DJ is going to do. He's going to work with the wideouts. So he certainly has that experience under Brady, has that time here, understands the athletes that are on this football team and who you go up against. With Peetz, I think you're looking at a situation here. I can't tell you what type of play caller he's going to be. So you're sort of damn if you do, damn if you don't. I've heard it from enough coaches. Okay, I'll hire a guy with experience. The first thing everybody wants to do is, in 2016 he was 49th in total offense, and they didn't run the ball well and all that. And so you hire somebody with no experience. Their deal is, you got no experience calling plays. So you got to balance the scale. Somewhere along the line here, we didn't know how good of a coach Joe Brady was going to be in working with Steve and running that offense. In 2019, no one knew. Only thing I know is that day I appeared, you and I did that show, I got more texts, more people saying, man, why are you praising Joe Brady? He's done nothing. Now, you can't find them guys today with GPS. None of them. They all want to duck and hide when they're wrong about something, and they always want to point out when you're wrong. So my thing with Jake, he's got some experience. Play calling is an art. And I have an old coach that lives not far from me, and he would always categorize it that way. He said it's an art form. You got to know when to call a play and how to call it, and there's certain down and distant situations, but it's a young man's game. Matt, didn't we talk about that a month ago?
Yep.
You cannot. You can have some mix of older coaches, but what you want these guys to do, to put in the hours, to recruit, to relate to the young athletes today, can't hire a 60-something-year-old coach. Yep. It ain't going to work. Now, every once in a while you might get one like that, but for the most part you want them to have a good relationship with the players. And I think once players buy into what you do is going to be successful, man, they're going to bust their butts for you. If you put any question marks in their minds, I don't know about all that, So we'll see with Jake. And again, I can't answer that question, what type of play caller he is. He's certainly NFL experience. He was certainly part of the Panthers offense when they were really good with McCaffrey to roll that up in some unbelievable numbers. But as far as a play caller, I don't think anybody can answer that question,
right?
Because you haven't seen it. So you got to almost say, okay, the eyes got to tell you what's going to happen. But if Joe recommended him, and that's apparent he did, then that part is good. Because I think the one thing with him is a lot of people, they just sort of laughed at Joe Brady. Oh, well, what is he doing with the Saints, And we teased him. Come on, Bobby and I were probably the only people there that sort of knew who Brady was. And we would tease him about going wash Sean's car and get donuts and, go to the chicken place, get that 4-piece and, that sort of thing. But he knew, because he had always told, man, I love listening to y'all. Y'all entertaining to me. And I get it. I get it. And he was like, Bobby always, Mike talk too much. Me talk too much. So we had a good rapport. Let's put it to you that way. But I do know when you work for Sean, what type of hours you putting in. You're not going to work at 7:30 and knocking off at 5. And I know why Sean hired him. He brought him in so he could give him some insights on what was happening in college football in this RPO game. Because Sean felt that a certain part of that could equate to professional football. And I think we see some of that certainly with Taysom Hill and what's happening there, and even some of the pass patterns. And then Joe took that and he brought it to LSU. He sort of stole what Sean was doing and he placed it in LSU system. So I like the youth of it. The resume is not lengthy for either, but both of them are from the Brady tree. And we may be talking about a head coach in the NFL real soon.
Yeah.
And I mean real soon.
Mike, I'm curious. So when we talked about the Mangus and Peetz sort of combo hire yesterday, my take, I think a lot of people share this. It checks a lot of boxes. Like what you said. I mean, the connection to Joe Brady, you're trying to revert to 2019 and recreate that offense, the young, innovative offensive mind. It checks a ton of boxes. Peetz has been in the NFL. He's worked with quarterbacks. Mangus played receiver. Like, it fills a lot of those. But this does feel like a very pivotal year at LSU. So it's kind of they're signed now, so it's done. But is this too risky of a move for Ed, not going with someone that is more established?
Only thing he's ever told me is, Mike, you're damn if you do and you're damn if you don't. You got to have a feel for what will work on your football team. And you got to make that choice. Mm-hmm. Now, all of us who have been in other businesses understand that you're going to miss. You hire people you think are really good, and it doesn't turn out that way. And then you hire somebody, man, I'm really not sure, but I'm willing to give him that shot. Yeah, their resume looks pretty good, and they turn out to be really good. So there's a hit and miss with this coaching stuff. Now, if you listen to people that do this on the internet, they never miss on coaches that they recommend. Never miss. But all I'm telling you is there's a risk for Ed every year. I think other than Nick Saban and Dabo Swinney, I think everybody else, and maybe Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma, everybody else is sort of looking year to year. Because you kind of rub somebody the wrong way, like what happened in Texas with Tom Herman. Tom didn't get fired because of wins and losses. He didn't get fired because he couldn't beat Oklahoma. Come on. Got a lot of people that can't beat Oklahoma in the Big 12. He got fired because he didn't know how to kind of smooth real well. And he rubbed somebody who's giving him a lot of money. He rubbed them the wrong way. And man, give me that check. He's out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I do think they traded apples for apples because how big of a winner was Sarkisian at Washington or USC?
Not very.
So my thing is, you traded apples for apples here. And he's done a nice job with quarterbacks. I give Steve credit there. But again, what is your expectations at Texas? 8, 9 wins? If that's the case, Sark can do that, but so can Herman. If your expectations are double digits or more, I'm not sure that you hit on that. Now, again, Texas got a lot of money. They can come a-calling, like I think they're doing certainly with Corey Raymond at the moment, to see if maybe they can't kind of pry him away from LSU. And there's going to come a point with Corey. You can see it. There's going to come a point where maybe I got to do something for career. Maybe I got to take a look somewhere else to further myself in this business. So we'll see what happens there. But it's always a bit of a risk, no matter who you hire, because what you can't gauge, no one can, is how good of a fit that coach is with the team. I think that's the kind of question mark about every hire that you make, how well that will equate to that particular team. It's a lot more difficult than you might think. Well, let's hire this former head coach or this former offensive coordinator. What happened to, well, he's had 3 jobs in 5 years. Oh, there's a reason why he's had 3 jobs in 5 years. Mm-hmm. It's not like he's getting promotions on those jobs. Matt, it's a difficult choice, and it's an expensive one in today's world of college football. And for Ed, I think there's some realization that, hey, listen, I got to hit on this.
Yeah,
I got to hit on this because, again, once you went to the mountaintop and drank from that cup of wine, nothing ever tastes the same. Everybody's going to say, man, come on, we got to get back to 2019. We got to get back to that. And this is a talented young team that you're bringing back, but how well will it all mesh? How quickly will it mesh? I'll tell you something Pete Jenkins told me a couple of weeks ago. And he said 2 things he said I'm really interested in. How the NCAA, flexibility-wise, will be with spring drills. Can you guarantee me that they're going to be able to do that? Do we know everything about what's going to be going on medically in the spring that we can feel good about having them on that field in March?
Well, I do understand that, but if you played the season, there is reason to believe you could get through a spring. I would say they do, but your point's well taken.
Yeah, and because it's the unknown. That part, and I understand, Pete, from that standpoint. There's a certain unknown there that's you can't answer. And he said, secondly, watch. He said, mark my word. He said, and listen, I don't want to call nobody an old coach. I'm 79 years old. So he said, I'm the last dude that want to call somebody an old coach. But he said, I'm just telling you, he said, guys in their late 50s and 60s, this year was really trying on them. And he said, there's going to be some people walk away from the game. Now, maybe he was trying to tell me something without telling me, even though I knew at least one person on that staff was seriously thinking about leaving.
Yep.
But I think what he said, coaches are creatures of habit. You go through the same thing over and over and over and over again. That was taken away. And he said, now you got all this stuff thrown at you. How you dealing with COVID? Using Zoom and Skype. Like he said, most of these guys, they got no clue about Zoom and Skype. Like you said, now you learn real fast because that's what you had to do. Then he said, that's the social part of it and how that particular deal was handled in the summer. And some people handled it better than others. So he said, the other part is, I'll guarantee you Coach O brings in somebody that's his ears. And he did, Austin Thomas. Mm. And he told me this well over a month ago. He said, watch if he doesn't break. He said, I'm telling you, if you think Nick Saban walked down that street on his own, he said, well, Mike, you know, you always say that you got mountain front property behind your home on the bayou. He said, all I'm telling you is Nick got two guys that tell him everything. He said, Nick's not the type of guy to jump on the sofa and turn on the CBS Nightly News or Fox News or Newsmax, whatever you CNN, whatever you watch. He said, come on, that ain't Saban. And he said, but he's got a couple guys that tell him, hey, coach, this is a pretty serious matter. We might want to talk and kind of look into this a little bit stronger. And he said, that's why he's one step ahead of the next. He said, it's not that he maybe knew, but he had people that did and had enough spine to tell him, coach, this is serious, and you got to do something about it.
Yeah.
Now, he said, no, listen, every staff's not like that. He said, listen, I've been on staffs. Nobody tells them nothing. He said, the head coach, he's kind of cocooned. Nobody tells him anything. But it's funny how he said, older coaches, they're going to walk away from this game. How the spring would be handled, he said, it's still a question mark for me. And then he threw that out. Watch if Coach O doesn't hire somebody to be his ears and his eyes and to whisper in his ear, hey, coach, you got to handle this sort of way. Because he said, listen, as a coach, you so much away from the real world sometimes, you don't realize it. And he said, people, how can that be? Well, things happen real quickly in this world. We saw it yesterday, didn't we?
Yeah.
We saw it yesterday happen real quick. And so, and what Peetz said, God bless him, I told him for a 79-year-old man, every once in a while you become Nostradamus.
Mike, let's talk Saints, Bears, and I want to delve into some matchups. And I've asked pretty much everybody I've had on this week and to talk about this game. I've asked this question. Is there anywhere on the field where you would give Chicago an advantage? That was a deep sigh.
Position group, the only thing that's close would be a tight end.
So what is the blueprint for Chicago in this game?
Blueprint is to run the football with David Montgomery. I think you're going to have to establish the run. You cannot rely on Trubisky, who's been a career erratic quarterback, to win it for you. Because you're going to have those moments with him. He's looking good, he's looking bad, and sometimes it's on the same series. So you got to be able to run the ball with Montgomery, and the Saints got to turn the ball over. And listen, that can happen. You can get in a situation where you turn the ball over, short field, and have things happen for you, and Big Mo kind of take over. But I think the big key is for the Saints, they got to stop Montgomery running the ball and say, you know what? If Trubisky's going to beat me, God bless him. But he ain't running the football 35 times with David Montgomery. That's not going to happen. And we got to be smart. Don't turn the football over. And I think two things there that would give an opening for the Bears. Now, I like the Saints in this game, and I think they'll cover. And I think before it's over with, this line's going to expand.
Yeah.
I don't know where people bet if it's 9.5 or 10, but I think it may even go up a little bit more from that. I think the Saints take care of business against the Bears.
How aside from the obvious, which is Foles to Trubisky, how different is this matchup on Sunday than Week 8?
I think you got a much more confident Saints defense. I think midway into the season, they started to hit their stride defensively. You hate Quan's not there because I thought he was such a nice addition to this football team. But you're getting a pass rush. Now, it's questionable if Trey Hendrickson will play because of the neck injury. But the Bears don't have the 5 blocks of granite protecting Trubisky. That's all I can tell you. So I think you can get a pass rush on them. But I really think that you're playing with a lot more confidence on defense. And with the elements coming back on offense with Kamara, with Michael Thomas, and Deontay Harris, who can shorten the field for you. In the past, it had always been with the Bears. They won with defense and a kicking game, and they ran the ball pretty well. This year, their defense hasn't played as well. You paid a lot for Khalil Mack, and in year one, he was terrific. Has he played like the same player since?
Nope.
Now, Akeem Hicks, when he wants to, you best get out the way. But, he's also had those moments where he has sort of been pedestrian. And again, the loss of Roquan Smith is huge for that football team. And what he was able to do, they cleared a lot of space out for him. He had a lot of free runs into the backfield. He knew how to get around blockers. That's a big loss for them. And again, with Trubisky, you got what you got. You're not going to turn him around. He is going to be a chronically erratic quarterback for the rest of his days in the NFL. That part of him will never change. The one element he does bring is that he can move around well. Nick Foles was a box quarterback. He stayed in that box. He wasn't getting out of there. Mm-hmm. And Nick Foles did not want to put the ball up for an interception. Nick would rather throw the football into the ground before he threw the football in coverage. Trubisky is a much riskier quarterback throwing it. But I think the confidence the Saints have defensively, and you got your stars back sort of aligned, I think is a big key.
Mike, what do you think about the other games? I think everyone assumes that Tampa's going to go win in Washington, but the other
I'd be careful.
Okay.
I
think, you got me sitting up now, Mike. Okay.
No, I'm not saying Washington will win, but they are built to give the Bucs issues because of what they can get off the edge. All I know is if Donovan Smith plays left tackle, that's his starting position, and Trey Henderson was up against him, Trey Henderson would have like 35 sacks.
No, you're right. You're right.
Man, he's a turnstile. And Bruce Arians has no real addiction to the running game. Okay, yeah, it's there. Every once in a while, give it to Fournette, give it to Ronald Jones. But he has no commitment to the running game. Now, the Redskins, Washington doesn't have.
That old half is never going to die, Mike.
Yeah, Washington has a limited offensively, okay? They're not full of players that can put points on the board. But I tell you, I think they can give that Tampa football team issues, especially if you can put Chase Young one-on-one against Donovan Smith.
That's interesting. Okay.
Man, and if I'm Washington, I'm saying, listen, Chase, you ran your mouth. We're going to give you an opportunity. Go up against Donovan Smith and whip his backside. Because we know where Tom Brady's going to be. He's going to stay in that box. He's not going to move around. He doesn't like people around him. It's almost like, he's in a bubble. Man, don't touch me and don't get around my legs. But if you give him time, he's going to drill you. So my thing is, I put Chase Young going up against Donovan and say, good luck, buddy. Try to block him. He got some issues. I've not seen just Hendrickson do it. I've seen other guys have field days going up on that left side and give Brady a lot of issues getting rid of the football. And do they even want to run the ball? I mean, okay, the running game, yeah, it's a little part of what we do. But Ron Rivera does a great job defensively. And Jack Del Rio, I think, has done just a marvelous job with that defense in Washington. Again, they really limited offensively. They won't beat Tampa. But I'm telling you, I think they could give them some issues. Because I don't like the matchup in the trenches that what Tampa Bay's got along that offensive line.
All right, Mike. Do you like Tampa to win?
Yeah, I think Tampa wins, but I think it's really much closer than I think a lot of people might think.
Okay. Short on time, but a thought on Seattle and the Rams, because this is really pivotal, because this kind of would determine who's playing Green Bay next week.
I ain't going up against Russell Wilson. I mean, my thing is I think that's the big key in this football game, and I'm going to go with Seattle there. The Rams are a pretty beat-up football team at this point, and who knows with Goff and what you're going to get out of him anyway. So, man, I'm going with Wilson. I like Seattle in that game.
Mike, we're getting a lot of questions about Corey Raymond and the flirtation there with Texas. Let me sort of summarize what a lot are asking. Why not, if you're Ed Ogeron, we talk about damned if you do, damned if you don't, why not promote Corey Raymond to D.C. this year if he's looking for that leap?
Well, you'd have to ask Ed that. I'm really not sure. I think that Ed had a couple people in mind that he wanted to try to land. And Corey wasn't on that couple of people. Now, sometimes, you got to go to 3 and 4. And I'm sure that that's something that he would consider if, say Freeman doesn't take it or someone else that he has in mind doesn't take it. But, Ed knows one thing. You got to win in 2021, okay? And I think he's going to go after the guy that I really think he believes can give him the best chance to win. If you won and done, so what? Man, I could care less if you just stay here a year and you win. All this stuff about, man, he got to be here 4 or 5 years. What? Man, this ain't your papa's world. You ain't here for the gold watch. You here for win in 2021. We worry about 2022 later. It's a tricky situation with Corey because of the fact he's been here for so long. He hasn't had that opportunity. I know he wanted it before Pelini got it. That I do know he wanted it. He wanted that DC job before Bo did, and Ed went in a different direction.
And no doubt, Corey wants to be a DC.
No question. Now, he's not going to be the DC in Texas either.
Right.
But there comes a point, Matt, I think no matter what, in your mind you think, man, I've got to make a move because maybe I'm stuck here in a spot. And stuck is the wrong term. But maybe I got to do something to get myself in a position where I can be a DC one day.
Mike, it makes a lot of sense. If you don't make that move, is the perception from your current employer that you're content doing what you're doing? I mean, I get it. It's a tough spot for Corey. And at 51, is he going to go be a DC at McNeese? No.
Nope. No. My thing is, if nobody's going to offer me a ton of money or a DC spot, I'm staying at LSU. Yeah. I know the talent here. I know what we got, and maybe I'll get that shot a year from now.
Yeah.
But it's a difficult spot when you're an assistant because he's no longer considered a young coach. Now, 51 years old for some people, that's young. But when you look around this world and you look around some of the coordinators in this league, man, they in their 30s and 40s. What I'm intrigued about is what happens with Kevin Steele. Kevin ain't young, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But if you look at his name up in the dictionary, don't have young.
That's very true. But he certainly proved he can coach defense in the SEC.
Yes, he can.
Reeve Lejeune asked Mike, what do you think the offensive game plan looks like? You mentioned the Bears playing against the Saints. How are we exploiting the Bears? How are the Saints exploiting the Bears?
I run the football early and try to get a running game going, and then I'm going after their inside game. Without Roquan there, I'm going to test the inside middle of that football team and throw the football over the top. If it's to my tight end, if it's crossing patterns, if it's a back coming out the backfield, whatever. But first things first, and when this team has won and had most success, when has it been? When they run the football and are effective early. And I think that's what they're going to try to do. The other part is I'm looking for the weak link in the chain. And I think the weak link in the chain is whoever took Roquan Smith's place. I'm going after him, and that means throwing the football over the middle.
Ask Mike, what do you think about the AFC playoff games? Any upsets on the AFC side, Mike?
I think Baltimore takes care of business. Man, I'm pulling for Titans, because I got coin on it, so to speak. Come on, I'm involved with the Titans, so I got coin.
Sure.
So I could have another week of pregame and postgame. But I think Baltimore ends up winning that football game. I just think they got a little bit of revenge from what happened a year ago.
Baltimore's a little more than a field goal favorite. What about Bills Colts? You like the Bills at home?
Yeah, I like the Bills. They're a hot football team right now, and they have a little bit of playoff experience. You got a red-hot quarterback, too. My goodness. I mean, Josh Allen's really played well, and you got a running game to support you. And Sean McDermott's defense, they get after you pretty good. And you may see a Buffalo-Kansas City AFC Championship game.
Who would you pick in that?
Hell, I ain't picking against Mahomes.
All right, fair enough. I don't know, man. The Buffalo feels like the team that could maybe beat Kansas City this year, but I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Mike Detillier, SaintsReport.com, MikeDetillier.com, the MND Draft Report with us every Thursday right here. Mike D, you the man. We appreciate you as always, man. Happy New Year.
Thank you, Matthew.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.